once we have started collecting data, we need to transform that data into a meaningful one. The relevant market will provide a potential source of income for the people who actually want to invest in that segment and take it forward. You should consider the impacts of globalization and technological innovation in addition to the competition and other factors. Good morning and welcome to the second session in Unit 5, Entrepreneurship and Small Business Management, where we are continuing with the Industrial Review Report Part 2. Now in this, we were actually trying to talk about in the previous session about the compilation of data sources from the various academic as well as from the industrial front. Now we will try to see about how to compile the relevant data using these sources above. Now we all know that once we have started collecting data, we need to transform that data into a meaningful one, which means that data should provide us some meaningful value. Now make a special note of the annual revenues in the industry, number of involved companies, workforce statistics. What I'm basically trying to say here is that you should look for certain specified data values which will be of some great importance. Why is this needed? What is the necessity behind it? The simple factor here is that when you start seeing the necessity, when you start understanding that there are certain values, there are certain factors to be looked in, people would find that these statistics will bring in some conclusion to your report. So whenever you are doing some analysis, whenever you are doing some research kind of work, it is very important that you first give the weightage to the statistics that has been prepared. So once you know that these are the values, these are the statistics that we are speaking about, then automatically you will be able to understand and analyze the trends and the other patterns. Now, this next thing is that you need to cross-check your information against the sources to ensure your accuracy. Your industry analysis will be examined thoroughly when you present the final business proposal to the investors or stockholders. So it is very important that it is not just we have just collected the data and present it like that. No, we have to check the data thoroughly. Check it against for every single mistake. See that the data that we are going to present is 100% accurate. Why is this needed? Why? Because whenever you are presenting this data, there are a lot of people who are watching you. They want to see the relevance of the data that you have collected. They want to see the importance of this data. They want to understand how this data could be taken further in terms of research, in terms of analysis altogether. So definitely people will be interested in terms of finding out whether this data can be made more relevant, whether this data can be taken for further valuation, for further assessment. So whenever you are doing an analysis, check for it. What are the figures? Why these figures are being done? What is the calculation? Have we put the most relevant data? Have we taken the resource from a reliable source? Have we calculated all the values? Have they been presented in the proper subheadings? So all those relevancies, the data checking has to be done before we start presenting the data to the public or to the shareholders. Now, demonstrate there is an ample market for your business proposal. Now, at the end of your report, one thing has to be very, very clear, that you are able to provide a scope for the investors. You are able to provide something new for the investors in terms of the market. Why is this important? Let me tell you that if you know that there is a relevant market, the relevant market will provide a potential source of income for the people who actually want to invest in that segment and take it forward. Now, for an example, let's say that you are going to do a relevant analysis, you're going to do an industry analysis about the 5G in the telecom market. Now, we all know that when it comes to the Indian market, there are only two players who are available as major ones in terms of the telecom industry, one being the Bharti Airtel, the other one being the Reliance Jio. Now, if this report can provide a viability, a scope of growth and development for the people, then there might be interested telecom players who might take this report and find out whether we can also invest in India and make some profit in terms of the telecom market. So what we typically try to do with the industry report is that we want to see the potentiality, we want to see the growth factors that are available. So when you present a market data which tries to tell that there is a market, there is a room available for growth, there is a scope available for making some profit, then people will be interested in your report. They will be definitely interested, they would definitely take that report and they will find that whether there's a scope or a growth for the industry. For instance, if you're selling an electric car and you know your relevant market size is not all automobile drivers or all the people in the world who travel distances, but still who make driving desirable, but rather than the total electric sales that has been given in that particular year. So what you will try to do is that you will try to find the scope of how electric car can be sold in the market, because there is some relevancy, there is some growth aspect, there are some potential factors that could be told so that people might get interested in that particular product, in that particular segment, and they would feel that this is the right time to invest. Followed by the industry trends that we need to understand. What are the industry trends? Ask yourself these important questions before you start writing up the report. The first thing is that you should consider the impacts of globalization and technological innovation in addition to the competition and other factors. What is the current trend that is going on in the market? Why is the market showing a particular kind of action, reaction to a business or to a particular segment altogether? Which means to say that the market will tend to continue, will tend to react to a particular level. The market will tend to show that there is some kind of growth, there is some kind of potentiality altogether. But where is it? How is it? What we need to look, how we need to look at those factors are very, very important for us. So what we would tend to do, what we will tend to analyze here is that, is there a nature and scope of growth? Is there a potentiality for all of us to grow? So that's where I would say that definitely there is a potentiality. Why? Because if you understand the trends through which the world is going through, you will be able to see where exactly the competition is building up, where we need to focus, and how we need to take the industry forward. So definitely competition, global trends will be able to make you write a better analysis, a better industrial valuation, which will tell you how exactly we are looking at the scope. So this is very, very important for all of us in terms of understanding the industry. The next thing is the regulatory conditions and the state of economy at the global level, the national and local levels, which have to be taken into account. We all know the situation that the world is currently going through, and there might be certain pulsating factors which are trying to create ripples, or which might be trying to create some industrial changes altogether. So it is up to us to take up that particular factor, understand the growth, understand the development, and then move it forward. So it becomes highly relevant for all of us to first understand how the focus is, where the focus is moving moving, where we need to build up the industry, and how we need to take it forward. With all that in our mind, with all that focus that's coming back to our mind, we will be able to understand the growth aspects very, very clearly. So that's why I always say this is the right time for all of us to focus into something which is very, very relevant, into something which is very much needed for the hour. So at that level, when you start thinking, then your analysis, your trend, your reports will be even more effective altogether. Followed by the other questions to be included is how the market size has changed in the past year, especially in the last 5 years, how the market has been changing. What is the expected growth of the relevant market? The relevant market, which means the market which is closely related, the market which is actually going on in terms of trend, in terms of the analysis factor. What factors will affect the market growth? Are there any demographics coming into picture? So when you start asking questions through the report, you will be able to understand and appreciate the factor that yes, there are certain questions, there are several more factors that we might need to look into, that we might need to do an analysis completely, so that you will be able to get relevant answers to your question. Most of the time, what we tend to do in an industrial report is that we just want to finish it by writing few lines, compiling few data from here and there, and just taking it forward, saying that yes, we have completed the work. Because we don't want to get into too much of questioning, we don't want to get into too much of analysis part altogether. But then if you want to make your report more effective, you need to ask questions and you need to find the relevancy for those questions. Followed by, think about the barriers to the entry or to expansion. Everybody wants to enter into the market, everybody wants to make profit. But is it possible? That's the first question that comes to the mind of people. We know that there is a scope, there is an opportunity somewhere. But if I want to enter that market, if I want to create a name for myself, if I want to run that market at any given instance of time, is it possible for me? Is it so relevant? Is it so easy for me that I can go ahead and do it? The answer is an obvious no. Why? Because there are so many barriers, which can be from the form of financial barriers, marketing, or from the human resource front, or from the market front itself. So every company needs to understand from the report what are all the exact challenges that you are presenting to them in order to make an entry into the market. Now, if you are going to expand a microchip production line and you're going to make and growth altogether, that means you need to spend several millions of dollars in terms of equipment and machinery. So there is going to be an expansion cost, there is going to be an operation cost, there might be a challenge in terms of running the entire system. You might not get the right people, the right efficient mode of working. So all those things will be a barrier, will be a challenge in terms of making you understand whether you will be able to survive in the market, yes or no. So all these questions should be answered by looking into the report. Followed by, on the top of that, now let's say that you are a computer manufacturer, you need engineers, programmers to produce and design the chip, which is again going to be a cost factor. Other firms that are competing for you, as well as the employees, the customers, their welfare, their products, their thought process, thinking. So many factors will start popping up in your mind. Now that is where you truly become a researcher, truly you become an innovative, a thoughtful company. Why? Because when I read through the report, I will be able to understand the peak insights as what exactly we need to do if I want to make an entry into this particular segment. What exactly I need to think as a person, as an entity, if I want to make some changes. So I should not just take a drastic step by telling that yes, I will take on to this industry, I will be able to do it, I will open up the industry day after tomorrow itself, and I will start seeing that a growth is possible. That will not be considered to be effective enough. So that's why I would always say that you have to look into the barriers of expansion at any given point of time. Followed by, provide a description of major competitors of the industry. By using your statistical information about the revenues, the workforce strength, the products and details, you will be able to give me a much more statistical and enhanced statistical about the competitors. You can indicate their past business move, how they have been able to do on their marketing, their sourcing factors, their growth factors, where exactly they have pitched in, what kind of products they have come in, what kind of cases or any legal issues that have gone through them. So the company analysis should be as complete as possible with the competitive advantage and disadvantages that should be mentioned in the report, so that the person who goes through the report is able to understand it and is able to take it forward. Now, the next thing is the question that we need to ask: that your competition engage billboard, radio, TV, print, ad network, all those things. Why? Because what is the coverage factor that your industrial analysis report is trying to ask? How much of it is really effective? What kind of data is what you are trying to pitch in? Address whether your company could meet or compete with the marketing standards. Now, if you look into certain niche products, like for example, Vicks in India or Dettol in India, the competition is definitely there, but they are able to stand out of the competition because of the marketing which they have been able to follow for the last 50 or 100 odd years in the market. So automatically, somewhere the new companies should be in a position to withstand the challenges of marketing that has already been thrown by the existing players. Followed by, if you start thinking about the recent innovations, the mistakes or the competitive factors that have been taken up by the company, that is also very much needed, because we will be able to understand the exact challenges, the exact factors, what has been going through, and we could probably learn from their success and failures, which also needs to be mentioned in your analysis, in your report. Followed by, situate your company within the industry. So you need to start creating a framework which will help you to start fitting your industry within that particular environment. You will be able to see what is the growth, what is the segment, how we can take it forward, what are all your factors, how you can introduce your company, how well it is positioned, and how does it fare with the organization, with the factors all together. Include statistical information about your business. Be very honest about the advantages and the disadvantages that you are facing. So all these things will definitely make the industry even more interesting. It will make it even more challenging altogether, where you will be able to understand this is how the parameters are, this is how the factors are. So that is what is needed at any given point of time. So I would always say that whenever you are looking in for changes or any kind of challenges, this is where the network is taking you. This is where the entire analysis is taking you all together. Now, you have to begin your report with a broad sense of description of the industry. So first thing is that open up a paragraph about the industry's history, where they are located, what they are doing. Write 1 or 2 paragraphs about their size, their products, their geographical scope, the manufacturing factors, all those things, because that will provide you a lot of factors, a lot of understanding of how the business is all about. Followed by, you should also try to introduce your company's position within the largest context, how they are coming up, whether they are an emerging company, they are a growing company. So you will be able to provide a much more detailed statistics as where exactly the company is standing, what exactly they are doing it, how they are doing it, and all those factors will come to us. Followed by, you will be able to tell us in what state they are, whether they are shaking out, whether the companies are going on a merger acquisition mode, or they are already a matured company which is already there, which means they are there in the market as a leader, established, well doing, or a saturated or a declining company where you see that there is no growth at all for them in the existing market. Now, with this, I come to the conclusion of this particular session, and I hope and believe that all the information shared through this particular session will be of a great help and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we shall learn more about the industry review report. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.